Church, in his confessional this week, Olajuwon basically told Katina to choose herself on decision day and say no. Now, while watching it, I was reminded of that old saying, if you love someone, let them go. And if they return to you, they were always yours. But if they don't, they never were. So while his actions may seem admirable on the surface, upon further inspection, I'm wondering if they're just pretty window dressings to say that he does not want a wife that comes along with projects. I got my notes, I hope y'all got yours. Let's get on into this damn mess. All right, y'all, so let's jump right on into our hot topics. Now, the only one I got is welcome back, Dr. Pepper. Listen, I will never understand why the experts are there super heavy in the beginning. They leave them missing in action throughout the middle, and then they pop up at the end once all the issues done set in to try to undo all the damn stress, struggles, and strife. But honey, like Jesus, I will not complain, and I will just be glad that she is here to try to help these couples as they head to decision day. So, this episode, y'all, was called Past Lives, Open Minds, and it's pretty much the part of the process where the couples write letters to their younger selves. They show their spouses their past, where they came from, and they also sit down with the experts to try to figure out any sort of lingering issues that may still be bubbling to the surface, or maybe, sitting latent as they head to decision day. So just starting with our general couple updates, let's just kick it off with Katina and Olajuwon. So in terms of their backgrounds, his hard knock life led to his rough approach to life. Now, I always try to understand people, right? Like, no one's 100% good, no one is 100% bad, no one is 100% saint, and no one is 100% sinner, right? And so I believe there are redeemable qualities alongside some problematic qualities in everybody, right? And so for Olajuwon, growing up in a rough neighborhood, growing up in a project, you can kind of see how his hard exterior could form. Now, the problem is that his hard exterior matches his hard interior that he's notably trying to change, but that he still seems to struggle with, which is why he approaches situations in the same way when it comes to Katina every time. Now, that's a pattern he's going to have to unlearn, and that's going to be his consistent growth point in order to try to find a way to chip away at that hard exterior and hard interior, so that it's not so militaristic every single time you come into something that comes into conflict with that, right? And for Katina, in terms of her background, her nice childhood and faith helps her persevere. Now, that's very telling as well. A couple episodes ago, Pastor Cal said that Katina is exactly what Olajuwon needs, okay? And I'm going to try to be as nice as I can in this scenario, okay? But Katina's faith and belief in a higher power and Jesus helps her to persevere with her damn husband, who's always taking her through all this damn drama, okay? There is no way in hell that you could not have a belief in Jesus and a forgiveness in people in terms of how you approach situations with Olajuwon when he is consistently cutting you down, okay, beating you down into submission mentally and whatnot, and you keep rising back up, forgiving him, and moving on to the next junction. So listen, I am glad that church is working out for Katina, and her nice childhood makes her optimistic to that people can change and whatnot. And I'm not saying that Olajuwon can't change. I'm just saying I believe in red flags. And if I was Katina, there have been a few red flags too many for me. Now, in relationships, I just pick up my hooves and I run off into the forest, okay? But that's my problem. I need to work on that in my damn therapy session on my own time. But I'm glad that her, foundation in church helps her to be forgiving in situations where others may have walked away. That's something to treasure, but it's also something to manage in terms of not being taken advantage of in every situation. So we come to find out that she has a background in church, but so does he, right? But, his hard knock approach must have sort of won out to the whole forgiveness and love aspect of church in some respects. But as I said, no one is 100% anything. So I do see that he is working towards trying to be a better person, even though I don't know if the journey can be accomplished in the 8-week time frame. And in terms of when they sat down with Dr. Pepper, y'all, that conversation kind of centered around a couple things. And it was kind of the education, career, husband, kids, and the eternal question of, can you have it all, right? And it sort of takes me back to that whole Michelle Obama quote. You know, it's a famous quote where she says, you can have it all, but not at the same time, right? So when Olajuwon is in his confessional and he's basically saying, you know, Katina should say no on decision day, Katina should pick herself, because we come to find out that Katina took a break after high school. She's trying to finish up her bachelor's degree. She's also looking to go into nursing school, and she wants to establish herself, but she also wants to have this baby in the same, or I guess start the process of the whole thinking about the baby and trying and whatnot within a 2-year time frame. You can have it all, but not at the same time. Now listen, if Katina wants to have the education, the career, the baby, the husband, all at the same time, she's going to need support. So the subtext to the whole conversation of him telling her that, you know, she should pick herself, to me, it seems admirable on the surface, right? I want you to go out there and I want you to be the best version of yourself. And if one day we should meet again and you're in the right place and I'm in the right place, we can be together and we can go forward from there. Seems admirable. But the subtext I'm reading into it, y'all, is that he's pretty much been leaving us breadcrumbs through this entire time in terms of trying to change her, trying to make her more of this vision that he has for her in his mind, right? And so it kind of leads me to the belief that he doesn't want to have a project, because while she's pursuing her education, this nursing school, this career, this baby, he's going to have to make some, you know, considerations and probably step back from a couple of things that he wants to do. And it seems more than anything in that, yes, he wants the best for her, but he also wants the best for himself, right? So yes, it may be some combination of love, like, and an admirable quality, but I think there's also some self-interest baked in there as well, right? And I kind of remember my own story, not really my story, but, you know, my family story in terms of my mom. You know, my mom came to this country as an immigrant. You know, she basically did what she needed to do to get her nursing degree. She found a husband. She had me. And then right as she was beginning to start law school, she found out she was pregnant with my brother, right? So you have a husband, a career that you already have. You have, you know, a kid on the way. You have this law degree that you're trying to pursue, and you're trying to make a decision as to whether or not you can do it all, right? And so the only way that she could do it all is because she had to have support in that scenario, right? Now, I'm not going to put this all on Olajuwon, right? Because yes, it's semi-admirable for him to, you know, want the best for her. But in reality, she has to want that for herself as well. It's really her decision, right? In terms of whether or not she wants to say yes or no on decision day, or whether or not she wants to take on all of this on her plate at the same time. But as I said before, you know, it takes a village. You're going to need support on it. And if he's already on the fence in terms of how this affects him, I don't really know if he can provide her with the support basis that she's going to need in order to graduate to all of these things that she wants to accomplish. So y'all drop down in the comments and let me know what you think. Is it admirable, or is there a bit of self-interest baked in? And we'll talk about that later. Now, moving on to Steve and Noi. Now, in terms of their backgrounds, his idyllic childhood led to his free-spirited nature. Now, baby, while I was watching him this episode, y'all, all I could think of was, I've seen this before somewhere. I've seen this before somewhere. This is like, what in my past is drawing me back to a memory? And I say, you know what it is, y'all? Okay. Steve reminds me of Kevin Federline. Cause baby, when he was pop locking and dropping it and talking about his rap song and playing it for his mom and Noi in that damn living room, I said, listen here, okay? If history ain't gonna repeat itself, and if I remember correctly, okay, K-Fed wanted to lay down and live off Britney money and not work too. No, let me stop. Let me stop. That was wrong, okay? I understand the segue between the rapping and the pop locking and dropping it, you know, on the track or down to the damn, you know, background dancer thing. But he is not trying to live off of Noi, though he does not like to, well, it's not that he does not like to work. It's that, you know, he works so he can live. He doesn't live to work. So it's just a different mindset, right? And he has money, he has savings. He is not trying to take advantage of Noi. You know, I joke, I kid, don't throw tomatoes. But I just thought it was funny just learning more about Steve. And honestly, he really did seem to have a really nice childhood. I didn't really see any sort of struggles, stress, or strife pop up in terms of his story, and it just seemed like it was all biscuits and gravy. Now, granted, we can't get a full summation of someone's story in a 3-minute package of their life dressed up with a nice bow, but in contrast to where Noi is with her background, it does seem like a very idyllic type childhood. Now, in terms of Noi's background, her childhood uncertainty creates a need for certainty in her adulthood. And listen, she didn't have money growing up. She comes from a refugee background. Yes, they had love there. Yes, there was open communication in terms of you were able to say what you wanted, but because she felt like such a burden to her parents in terms of, they have to do all of these things in order to provide for us, in order to keep a roof over our head, in order for us to keep living and thriving in this world. She quieted down her own wants, desires, needs, questions, right? And it's sort of like that whole thing that I told y'all before. If we don't heal our past traumas, they can find a way into our present situations. So what does Noi do when she is confronted with things that, are uncomfortable? She quiets herself down. She may leave. It may appear in like a social media post that she puts out there, saying that it's not about Steve, but we, know that it actually is about Steve. So listen, if we don't heal our past traumas, they have a way of appearing in our present lives. So whereas Steve's life was pretty idyllic, Noi's life was kind of the opposite of it. So you kind of see where, because she had so much uncertainty in terms of not knowing where the money's coming from, not knowing if she's going to be taken care of, not knowing if her parents are going to be okay. Her mom coming back from the chicken factory with blood on her face because she has to do this in order to make money to support her family. There was so much uncertainty in her childhood that she refuses to have that same level of uncertainty in her adulthood. And as I told y'all before, Steve represents everything in that lady's life that basically causes her pause. He does not have a job. He seems content in not working and being like a stay-at-home person. And, he just represents kind of her independence being taken away and her having to live in a way in which she did not imagine for herself, right? So if our past traumas are not addressed, they find a way into our current situation. Now, in terms of when they sat down with Dr. Pepper, her main things were communication in terms of figuring out when we have problems, how we deal with them, if she's not just going to leave at every juncture, if she's not going to just keep posting on social media, work on your communication, and also to figure out your living situation, traditional or otherwise. So an interesting note that Dr. Pepper brought up, and this is why I love having the experts, because it gives you a different mindset and a different makeup to how your relationship can be structured, right? She says that her and her current husband do not live together, okay? And they've been together for 16 years happily, if you let her tell it, right? But then in going with that, she says when she was raising children with her first husband, right, they were together for 23 years and they were under the same roof. So it's a different way to go about it. If you've already raised your children, done that whole parenting thing, done that whole husband and wife thing in the same house, and now you want to be free in your later years and you find that it's best for you and your husband to be in separate spaces and then come together when you want to, enjoy each other's company and whatnot, and that works best for you, then that's a different way you can structure your life. But to Steve's point, if we're trying to think about kids and building a life together, we're going to have to kind of be under the same roof, right? Like you don't get to the point where you're able to have a separate household with your spouse without first going through that actual situation with someone and deciding it doesn't work for you first. So Noi is trying to do it kind of like the backwards way. Let's not move in together. You keep your place, I'll keep mine. I'll still have my independence. But it's kind of like that whole thing where I told y'all before, she doesn't want to put all her eggs in Steve's basket because she doesn't necessarily know if it can hold all the things she wants it to. Okay, and from the last episode, we find out that she kind of wants to be a stay-at-home mom. That is kind of in direct contrast to how Steve wants to live his life, so that creates pressure points there as well. Now, onto the whole damn situation. My remedy for it is, I don't know if this couple is going to last past decision day. Y'all seem to want too many different things. That's just my opinion. Now, opposites can attract, but it seems like the fundamental things that she wants and the fundamental things that he wants are constantly in conflict. And I don't think there can be like a suitable remedy for everyone involved without somebody feeling like they're losing a part of themselves. So we'll see how it goes on, and whether or not they can figure out this living situation and communication. Now on to Jasmina and Michael, y'all. In terms of their backgrounds, both him and her have to unlearn their independence. And so, it's interesting that they have so many similarities in terms of their backgrounds, in terms of the trauma that they've experienced, in terms of parental love and not having it in some situations and it being taken in others. Like, for him, his mother died of cancer, his brother was shot, his father is deceased. And so he took all of that trauma and he placed it internally because he didn't want to be a burden on anybody else, right? He soldiered on through it as he said he's a lone wolf. And that's pretty much how I think of Michael, as a lone wolf that's had to unlearn those behaviors. And in terms of Jasmina, her mother abandoned her. Her father had the first stepmother who she did not get along with and did not, make her feel safe. Then she gets the second stepmother who she identifies with and who takes her in as as being her mother figure. But then the father ups and leaves and Tootsie rolls on back to Jamaica. So what has she learned throughout this entire process, right? It's that you cannot depend on a man. You need to learn how to do things for yourself because you may find yourself by yourself, right? So in both instances, for him, it's unlearning that keeping everything inside is the way to go, right? You need to share things. You need to find commonalities with people. You need to be vulnerable so they know who you are. And then for her, it's you can give up a bit of the control that you have in order to let someone in. So for both of them, it's unlearning those independence traits. And independence is not a bad thing. It protects you in a lot of situations. But in terms of a relationship where you're trying to collaborate with someone and build a life, it may be detrimental to the longevity of the relationship in some respects, right? So in terms of when they sat down with Dr. Pepper, she wants them to build romance in small ways. And sort of take a step back from the family planning. Now listen, y'all have gone from not being able to communicate to being able to communicate effectively to building a friendship, and now you're trying to see if romance can fit in that equation. For him, he definitely feels those romantic feelings for her, but for her, she does not feel them for him, right? And I believe in what Michael said in terms of the episode where he said, it's pretty much on her at this point. I have done everything that I could do to foster an environment where she feels safe, protected, and open to those kind of feelings. Anything after that has to literally come from her because she has to want to take that next step. It cannot be from him. It has to be her decision, right? And so in terms of Dr. Pepper, she over here listening to them talk about, she wants to traffic kids in 1.5 years or whatever. He over here talking about 2, 3 and stuff like that. And Dr. Pepper said, listen, hold up. I think we're putting the cart before the horse, because unless you are the present day recreation of the Virgin Mother Mary, baby, and Immaculate Conception gonna come down from the heavens and drop an egg on your head, y'all are gonna have to actually have sex. In order to have sex, you have to have romance. So you're kind of putting the cart before the horse in this instance. Work on the damn romance if that's what you want to explore, and then you can deal with the romance, the sex, the family planning. But until then, you're kind of, you're building dreams that will never materialize in a sense, right? Because if you don't have the romance, you don't really have anything. And Jasmina has showed that if she doesn't feel it deep down, it's not going to happen, right? So these are wonderful words. These are wonderful dreams. These are wonderful, adventures and kind of like, wonderful picturesque views of how you want your life set up. But until you solve the problem as to whether or not she has actual romantic feelings for this man, the conversation is null and void in my opinion. So listen, I personally have said throughout these last few episodes that I view them better as friends, but y'all brought up Miles and Karen from a prior season in terms of them finding their way to each other and not consummating their marriage before, a certain point, and then finding out that they had those commonalities and the romantic nature could build later. That could be the case here. I don't really know about it. They're kind of like a wild card couple, so I don't really know, but listen, I think we can suffice to say that nothing will happen until Jasmina wants it to happen, so we'll see what happens there. Now, in terms of Lindsey and Mark, y'all, their backgrounds. For him, he's longing for the days before everything got so complicated. Now, listen, that's a word in and of itself, all right? Now, let's go down this list. And y'all know I love lists, and I love to talk about, what has happened in this man's life since Lindsey has showed up, okay? Because it needs to be talked about, and I will tell you why in a second. Now, in terms of the list, okay, this man done lost his relationship with his mother figure. His apartment done been infested with bed bugs and critters, oh my. He done lost the damn apartment. His job say come back when you more focus on this rather than that damn experiment. So he ain't got no damn job right now. And then number 5, baby, his feline companion for the last 15 some odd years done gone off to glory. So listen, I'm not saying that Lindsey is the cause of this and this could just be a comedy of errors where everything has converged on the same 8-week period in terms of this happening all in his life at one time, okay? But what I will say is this. When someone is met with that level of trauma in such a defined and small period, they can approach it in one of 2 ways. Number 1 is that the stress, struggles, and strife that happened during that period brings you closer together this way instead of this way. Y'all, I'm so used to doing combative. Either it brings you together like this, or it will separate you like that, right? So either he's going to view this period as what brought them closer together and made them stronger as a couple, or he is going to resent you for being at the center of when all of these things happen in his life to his detriment, okay? So I don't know what the answer is in terms of what the future holds for them, but I will say that in terms of how y'all love language is set up, how y'all approach arguments, and how y'all just approach the relationship in general, it does not bode well. So I am not saying Lindsey is the center of all the dysfunction in this man's life. I will just say her entrance to his life kicked off a grand series of dysfunctional activities and tragedies that have happened. So whether or not they can rebound from that is yet to be seen, and whether or not he blames her is really anybody's guess. Now, in terms of her background, she's battling her mother's resentment and defining herself. And there's nothing really new here. We know that, she had a tumultuous relationship with her mother. She felt like in the past people were trying to diminish her light, to take things from her and to make her a version of herself that she did not want to be. So it's her eternal struggle to stop conflating anger and sadness, to figure out what emotion she has in a certain situation, and to find a way to be herself without dragging all of the energy out of the room and everybody down with her at the same time. So it's an eternal struggle for her, and one that she has kind of succeeded in some ways through this 8 weeks and kind of, taken a few steps back. So it's like that old country song, y'all. 1 step forward and 2 steps back. Nobody gets too far like that. Now, in terms of when they sat down with Dr. Pepper told her to give him the space to be the person that you need him to be. And in terms of what she told Mark is to give her more affection and support. And that's really what it needs to be between the two of them, because as I said before, their love languages are kind of skewed, right? She needs to touch him. She needs to have all this quality time. She needs to feel like she's supported and loved at all manners of the day and stuff like that. And for him, it's a little bit too much. It's a little bit overkill, right? So what she's saying is, give him the space to give you what you need. And then for him, feel comfortable to give her that affection, but on your timetable, right? It can't be that whole, I'm trying to drag it out of you, because what we've seen with Mark in his past is that when you push, he just retracts, okay? And that's what's just gonna keep happening if she keeps pushing him in the manner that she is. So we'll see what happens with this couple. I already think I have my judgment on them for decision day, but listen, I'm gonna let it drag out a 2 more episodes before I give my final thoughts on it. But y'all, I think that's really all I wanted to say on this episode. So if you liked what I said, please feel free to like, comment, and subscribe. Follow me on all social media at DatDamnDasher. And until next time, y'all, a closed mouth does not get fed. Speak up and tell people what it is you want from them. I'll talk to y'all later. Bye.